Hello and welcome to the Shadow the Stereotypes Empowerment Summit, where the intention is to empower Black men to live extraordinary lives. This is session number 11, and we're going to be sharing some insights on how to launch your dream. Now, whether you believe this or not, I believe every human being has a heart's desire. Some people call it their big dream, while others may call it their divine purpose. But whatever you call it, it's important to understand that you do have one, and it is encoded in your DNA. Therefore, you showed up with everything you need to fulfill your heart's desire. Unfortunately, very few people discover what their heart's desire really is. So the intention of this conversation is to help you discover what your heart's desire might be. Joining me today is Dr. Ray Blanchard. And Ray has been facilitating personal development trainings for more than 4 decades. He has literally taught thousands of people around the globe how to access their heart's desire through a wide range of programs. Today, we'll be focusing on one of those programs, which is called Launch Your Dream. So, welcome to the Shadow and Stereotypes Empowerment Summit. Ray, how are you?
I'm great. It's great to see you again, Michael. And very exciting topic.
All right, so first of all, let's begin by telling the audience who you are and what you do.
Ray Blanchard, I'm a trainer. The work that I do is help people redesign their futures, design their lives. People call me a lifestyle architect for that reason, because I'm working with people on building their lives from the ground up and building their lives by choice rather than living their lives by default. So what I basically do is I work with people who are having big dreams, big ideas, and challenged to get them off the ground and get them flying. And what I do is I work with people on transformational mindsets and give them a formula for how to organize themselves for success long term. So that's the work that I do in general. And beyond that, I mentor some people, coach other people, counsel some people, consult people in their businesses, and all together, I'm working with people to transform their futures and make a difference on this planet.
Nice. So I have to begin by sharing how Ray and I met. As I mentioned in an earlier session, I had gone through a divorce, a bankruptcy, foreclosure, depression, and being homeless for 2 years, living out of my car. And I had started reading books on personal growth and development. And I had begun doing seminars to help me put my life back together. During the 90s, I participated in a seminar called LifeSpring, and it literally changed my life. It gave me the confidence and awareness to rebuild my life. And the lessons I learned in that seminar definitely helped me become the man I am today. And during that time, in most cases, I was always the only Black guy in the room. And I always wondered why. And then one night I went to an event with LifeSpring, and the person facilitating the event was Ray Blanchard. And Ray was the first Black man I met in the personal development space. And I was so inspired by him that I wanted to follow in his footsteps and become a LifeSpring trainer. Unfortunately, I didn't qualify, but I knew I wanted to do exactly what Ray was doing, which was empowering others to reach their full potential. So I decided that I would develop my own trainings and platform. And I began writing books and became a motivational speaker. And now here we are more than 30 years later, working as a team to empower others. And I share that story because it's important for you to recognize that if I can fulfill my dream of following in Ray's footsteps and now be working hand in hand with him to help change people's lives, I'm absolutely certain that you can accomplish any dream you may have for your own life. So be sure to pay attention to the wisdom and insights Ray will be sharing, because rest assured, they can support you in launching your dream. So Ray, my first question for you is this. As a man who happens to be Black, are you optimistic or pessimistic about the future in general?
Wow, I'm really, really optimistic. I think that we've just reached the end of a saga and beginning another one. You know, with all the things that are going on with the voting systems these days and suppression of votes, all of the things that are going on with changing of the guard in the Senate and the Congress, I think that it's a symbol and a symptom that we're up to something really, really big. With the death of George Floyd and the advent of the Black Lives Matter movement, is what I'll call it. I think there's an awakening around the world, not only with Black people, but people of all races, colors. And there's an awakening in humanity about how we need to be with each other and who do we need to be on this planet to sustain our existence and to thrive. I really think it's a positive move that in a positive state that we're in. So I'm very, very optimistic. It really does challenge us though. And I know that there are going to be a lot of people who are challenged by having to move out of some of the things that they got comfortable with a few years ago and trying to reinvent themselves into a future. But it's a bright future, is my point of view.
Yeah, and I'm 100% right there with you also. Now, I wrote a book titled The Cure for Loneliness, A Black Man's Guide to Joy, Passion, and Purpose. And in the book, I talked about the unique challenges we face when we are in environments in which we're the only Black person in the room. So I'm sure you've had some of those experiences. So I'm curious, how do you handle that situation?
You know, I think the most important thing in handling those situations that are unprecedented for most of us when we step into that arena where we're the only is to know thyself and to know where you come from. Don't forsake your roots. Get clear about how you were brought up, what your true character is, and stand firmly and powerfully in who you are and know that it matters and know that you matter. All the rest is noise and conversation. And I think most of us, Black folks, brown folks, minority folks, have dealt with the noise a lot in our lives, even to get the opportunity to step up into that place in the first place. So we gotta just know that all the rest is noise and go back to your roots and who you really and authentically are.
Yeah, I think that really sums it up because when we know that authentically who we are, no matter what environment we step into, we should be able to shine. You know, one of the things my mom taught me at a very early age, she says, whatever room you walk into, you own that room. Own that room. And she taught me
Wise woman.
that was before I was in high school. She said, own the room. And she's always tell me, she says, know a little bit about everything so that you can converse and talk to people of all different races, socioeconomic backgrounds. So she says, your key is here. she says, knowledge is power. Applied knowledge really is powerful. So it's something that she instilled in me at a very, very early age. And again, I think as more and more of us really step into these environments of leadership, like yourself, I'm really optimistic about the future. But more importantly, what this summit is about empowering you, the viewer, to make sure that you're willing to step into your power. That's what this whole summit is about. It is about awakening that part of you that knows how freaking awesome you really are. So we're going to be talking about launch your dream. But Ray, I want you to start first of all. I want you to explain, what does effectiveness trainings mean? What are they? What are effectiveness trainings?
Well, let me start by something you just said about empowerment. Uh, the word empowerment really can be interpreted as in power, in your power. When you're in your power, you're in what's authentic for you. When you're true to what you are and who you are and authentic, the word authentic then means author. The root of authenticity is authorship. So you become the author of your own life. So what we really need to do is find what's authentic for us and find our authentic self. Uh, I think most people go through life having experiences, turning them into stories and narratives, and then relying on those narratives so much so that they forget to rely on who they authentically are. So what we do is we trade off who we are for our belief systems and our narratives. And then we let our narratives and beliefs and habits do the work for us. And we forget our own being, our own authentic self, and become impoverished at that level. So the real work is to get back to who we authentically are, find that, discover that, so that we can author our own lives coming from authenticity. That's where we're empowered. And I think that's the root of the work. And once we get that, then we can launch our dreams from that, because when we get to who we are, we also realize that we have a deeper purpose in life. And purpose becomes the source, the reason to be, the fuel that launches our dreams and everything that we do. And people can discount purpose, but ultimately, purpose is the rocket fuel that propels our visions.
Yeah.
And launch your dream is about getting back to that basic fundamental platform of purpose and then vision, and lining up your actions to be true to that, and you'll succeed.
Yeah. Now, I want you to take a moment and think about this, because a lot of times we see successful people, if you will, and we may see the end result of that person, but we all have challenges and struggles and difficulties. So I want you to kind of go back and think about Ray before you got engaged with these effectiveness type trainings. Tell us a little bit about Ray before you began that journey.
Well, Ray started out with very meager means. Uh, a little boy from the country, moved to the big city, felt out of place, and suffered some self-doubt. My family really didn't have very many means, but we had a strong spiritual background, which helped me to stand more true to who I am at the source level. But when you're standing true to yourself, it speaks loudly, and people start to see it and hear it, not with verbal commands, but with a nonverbal presence. So people started to identify me and pick me up and put me under their wings and took me places. And I've always been blessed enough to have somebody who saw in me what I didn't see in myself at the time, and mentored me, supported me, and gave me opportunities. And it was just one right after the next to I moved right through school, universities, and doctoral programs at a very early age. And uh, just as I finished the doctoral work, somebody else started to recruit me into what they were up to, and I just started to listening to what what the higher spirit was calling me to do, and the rest is history.
There you go. Now, this is Michael Taylor's judgment. I own it. And I'm gonna make a blanket generalization. My judgment is Black people in general don't like investing in their own potential. We have no problem spending tons of money on material things, but we sometimes complain about spending money on something that literally changes our lives. Now, for myself, I know I've personally spent thousands of dollars over the years of my personal growth and development. And on more than one occasion, I've been accused of trying to be white or doing that white people stuff. And since this summit is targeted to Black men, what do you want to say to them about the importance of investing in their own potential?
Well, first of all, I grew up around educators and in my family, and I was always taught that education is your ticket. And you've either got to invest in it or you've got to be good at something. Like I was good at sports and I was good at academics. And people invested in me when I didn't have the money to invest in myself. But one way or the other, that investment had to happen. I was just recently, I'm glad you brought this up because I was just recently passing along an opportunity for Black and brown women to attend an empowerment event. And there are really famous singers, actors, poets producing this event. And there were a few brown Black women that I introduced it to, and they didn't take any action on it. And I was quite disappointed and surprised because it's such an opportunity for them. So I think, unfortunately, whether it's Black men or Black women, I think all too often one of two things tend to happen. We think we know it all because we got religion and we got spirituality, we got the spirit with us. But we forget that the spirit sometimes is bringing us things that we ought to listen to, number one. And the second thing I think happens is I think many of us grow up in worlds where we didn't have parents and people around us that taught us to look so far above where we are and look to the extraordinary. We were more satisfied with doing okay or doing good. And then if we did good, maybe we can reach what we thought our potential was. But our potential is still something that's predictable from what we think we're capable of. We were not taught to look to the possible, look to the beyond, and take that moonshot and to know that we can make it. And I think that we've got to reach back to our youth and the kids that are around us and inspire them to go to the moon, inspire them to possibilities that's way beyond the predictable and way beyond just making it and comfortable. And we are the ones who are going to have to bring that. Because I know a lot of parents might be able to do that and family members might be able to do that. But for the masses and the many, we're not taught that. We're taught how to do good and do a little bit better.
Now, we're talking about your program, Launch Your Dream. And you've mentioned that you refer to life as a game. Explain what you mean by that.
Well, life is a game in that there are ways to perform and ways to play the success game. And sometimes we weren't taught the rules. We don't even know what the rules are. And so we don't even know how to play. But in most success scenarios, there's a game and there are rules, and sometimes the rules are unspoken. And in every game, first of all, there are winners and losers. And the winners are measured by their results, and losers are measured by their results. And unless you know how to get results in your life, you're not going to win the game. Most of us are just playing and hoping that things will turn out all right for us. But I think you got to know what the game is that you're playing in life, what life is all about, and how to play in such a way that you can win the game. Now, one of the things in winning the game is, as I said, results, how to get results, not just results, but how to get extraordinary results. You got to really be very clear about your intention and match that up with all kinds of activities and mechanisms, and not just play according to formulas and mechanisms. You got to match it up with your inner self, with the external activities that you need to do, and put those together. And then I think you can win the game big time. And I think a lot of people are just playing and not playing to win and knowing how to win.
And actually, using that metaphor, I think the majority of people aren't even playing. The majority of people are in the stands. The majority of people are in the stands looking at the people who are playing. And if, they're screaming and hollering at the people that are playing, and they got their judgments about them and who's good and who's not good. But yet they refuse themselves to get in the game, to even get there. And that's what this conversation is about. I want to get people out of the stands.
Well, that's really right on. And because a lot of people think that not playing isn't playing. But I take it a little further. Not playing is a way of playing, because you're responsible even when you're not being responsible. You're responsible. Even when you think you're not making a choice, that's a choice. So not playing is a way of playing. It just doesn't get you the results that you maybe dream of. Yeah. But you're definitely playing. You can't get off the game board. See, I call it a game because you can't ever get off the game board. Right. Every way that you play is part of the game. So you might as well learn how to play the game to win, and play the game full out, a full tilt boogie, as my friend calls it. Yeah. And learn what that's about. And the other thing you just said, I think is so profound. I think we can get lulled into this mindset of being critical of people who do win. It's like we champion these athletes, and when they become great athletes, then we want to knock them back down and criticize them. And so young folks get scared to go for it because they think that if they go for it and win, people are going to criticize them and knock them back down. Yeah. And so they're then content to just be in the stands, being part of the cheerleading crowd, or the crowd that boos, and don't really get into the game in such a way that they can actually move the ball down the field. And, I think about, I'm sorry to go off on this, but, like people around the water cooler at work, people come in and go, oh, the boss should have done this, or this company should work this way, or all this should happen this way. If I was running the company this way or that way, or who used to run it, all that water cooler talk is not moving the ball down the field. All of it is just noise. And the thing that really matters is that it doesn't matter how you think or what you think about something. The only thing that matters is what you're going to do about it. That what matters is moving the ball down the field and scoring. And if you don't score, you don't win. And it doesn't matter what you think about it or how you feel about it, or I hate to say it, but your feelings from that level and your opinions on that level don't really matter. What matters is moving the ball down the field and score. And if you score it, you can win. And if you don't score, you don't win. So it's about learning how to score.
Yeah. Now, talking about it from a Black male perspective, unfortunately, there are still a lot of us who don't think we can get on the field. There are some of us who think that, well, I got to stay in the stands because of racism, because of my lack of education, because of my lack of this. They don't even think they can get in the game, right? So what we want to do is we want to talk about how does your program Launch Your Dream help and guide people to recognize that they can get in the game?
Well, the thing that I gotta say is that I have a lot of compassion for anyone who feels that the system is rigged against them, because it is to a great degree. And let's not really forget that. Let's not overstep that. There is systemic prejudice and racism, and there are a lot of politics, and we could get into a lot of the systems that Black people have a hard time getting properties, have a hard time getting into the capital game, having a hard time getting into positions where they can really make the most of themselves. So I have a lot of compassion for that. But the other reality is, it's not going to go away by wishing that it goes away. We still got to do something about it. We still got to make our own way. That's why I'm so much of a fan of Black wealth building and working together with people to create our own wealth and create opportunities for people of brown and Black people and minority people. So I have a lot of compassion for that. But going back to Launch Your Dreams and how do we do something about that, I say several things. One is that we got to learn what our purpose is. Go back to that and get back. And if we don't know our ultimate purpose, we can have a self-declared purpose. And then once we get a sense of purpose, because purpose is what gets you out of bed in the morning when you don't feel so good and feel depressed and down, a sense of purpose plugging back into that gets you back up and gets you back on the game board. And once you can do that and have a way to do that and access to that, then you got to start dreaming big and learning that it's okay to dream big, learning that it's also okay to fall on your face. You don't get to the top of the mountain without taking your first steps. And you got to learn to take steps and be satisfied with the progress you make in those steps, but not settle for that, but be satisfied and acknowledge yourself. Because all too often, we don't take the opportunity to enjoy our minor accomplishments. But those minor accomplishments help propel you. And then once you can then learn a few of the fundamental principles of how to get from A to Z, and they're not very complicated, but they're definitive. And I have narrowed them down to 8 basic steps of how to take it from A to Z. But it requires rigor, and it requires discipline, and it requires doing what you said that you would do day by day. But don't try to climb the mountain in one step. Uh, Break it down into doable steps and to do one step after the next in sequence. You can get to the top of the mountain.
Now, there are going to be people who are going to be watching this, and they're going to go, "Well, that sounds good, but I have no clue. I don't know what dream I have. I don't even know how do I find out what my dream might be?" Is that addressed in your program?
Yes, indeed. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't know what their calling is or what their ultimate spiritual purpose is. And they make it so big that it's unmanageable. So I like people to start with something that they have a passion for, something that they feel strongly about, something that they love, something that they like. And I actually take people through what you and I know as closed eye processes, closed eye experiences. And I have them imagine, in fact, even create scenarios of imagine you went to sleep one day and you dreamed of a miracle happen and you woke up and it actually did happen. Now imagine that. I have people imagine stuff. And then what would they have seen themselves doing in this miraculous reality? What would they have been feeling? What would they have seen themselves participating in? So I have people paint pictures for themselves and imagine things. There's no one straight shot. Like you study in math, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. It's not always a straight line. So you've got to actually have people imagine, get in touch with their subjective side of themselves so they can and paint pictures for themselves so that they can then start to get some clues on that. Um, One of the things I'm going to give away, and I probably will give it away before they even come to the summit, is a purpose questionnaire. I call it a branding questionnaire because everybody is a personal brand. You are a brand. And I have a series of questions that I pose for people to entertain and consider. And out of those questions, you might see a common thread to your answers. And that common thread will start to give you a clue about what your purpose is and what you ought to be engaging yourself in. So yes, I help people to get to some of those answers for themselves.
Now, a couple of points that I want to bring out that as you're watching this is so powerful. If you get nothing else out of this conversation, you have to get this. Albert Einstein once said, imagination is more important than knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
When we start talking about our dreams, the imaginal realm, if you will, there's lots of theories about this, but if you imagine that there's this source energy, if you will, out there, and imagination is simply the imaging in of these divine ideas. And so what I'm hearing you say, Ray, is that when you walk them through this process, they're tapping into that imaginal realm, and that imaginal realm will send ideas to you. And it's your responsibility to latch onto one that speaks to you. Now, for me, I see life through a spiritual lens, and I see that this imaginal realm, you can call it source, you can call it God, you can call it whatever you want to call it. But one of the best places to start, I think Ray just touched upon it, is if we aren't willing to use our imaginations, we can't shift our reality. We can't, if we can't see outside of what we're currently experiencing, we can't create something different. So being willing to tap into your imagination is the key to launching your dream, in my opinion, because I've known since I was 10 years old that I want to be an entrepreneur. I could see it in my mind at 10 years old. I could see myself successful as an entrepreneur. Now, I had absolutely no evidence that that was possible. Born in the inner city projects of Corpus Christi, Texas, to a single mom with 6 kids. Who was I to even imagine that I could become an entrepreneur? Well, I believe, again, I tapped into that imaginal realm, that God connection, if you will, and the ideas started flowing. And I started my first company when I was 14 years old. by
Mhm.
listening to and trusting that still small voice within me, that when that idea hit, I went, oh yeah. And one of the things I always tell people, write the ideas down
Yes.
because they'll come flowing. And if you don't write them down, you'll lose them. So,
Mhm.
so I think right. That is so important that if we're going to launch our dreams, we have to be willing to tap into that imagination because that is, in my judgment, the source of the ideas that can help us locate our dreams. Would you agree with
Yes.
that?
Yes, and writing them down is really, really important because you can't recapture them always. But if you write them down and just keep a notepad of your ideas and just accumulate them and occasionally revisit them, you'll start to see a theme and you'll start to see things that fit together. Some of them really fit together. And that will help you start to construct something out of all of the common things you're seeing. But you said something important. Einstein said that imagination is more powerful than knowledge. Absolutely, I get that. And what we have to learn how to do is allow ourselves to imagine in the way that you described it, like image in. Like break the word imagine down, called image it in. And let ourselves do that. That's the important thing, a transformational kind of work that we don't often get in the Black, brown communities, is this kind of work. Allowing ourselves to image in. That's quite different than fantasy
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
fantasizing. And we
Yes.
need to make that distinction. It's not fantasizing, because I think a lot of kids fantasize because they think that they're not going to get there anyway. So they just live in a fantasy. But imaging in is a constructive process. You're allowing yourself to tap different resources. And it moves you out of this needing to have a concrete answer. And then it allows you to bring in more resources in which you can construct and design out of that. And then bringing a design into the picture, because launch your dream is literally designing a future for yourself. It brings me back to something that Buckminster Fuller said, that environment is maybe even more powerful than skill and knowledge and all the rest of the mechanisms. Environment. So think of this, imaging in, learning to do that, and being in an environment, like being with these powerful uh, uh, Black and brown men that you're bringing to the summit, putting yourself into an environment like that. I think environment is profound. The environment becomes the context. It becomes the soil out of which things grow. It's the context out of which content and new developments grow. So that's the soil. Put yourself into environments like we're doing with this Empowerment Summit, and allow yourself to image and imagine with some of these powerful people. I think that's one of the most uh, enriching things that we could invite people to do.
Yeah. And that's the whole intention of the Shatter the Stereotypes movement, is to put Black men in an environment in which they're networking and interacting with like-minded brothers who are thinking and imagining possibilities rather than
Yeah.
feeling victimized and feeling like they can't do things. And so that imaginal realm, it's been said in a good book, where two or more are gathered, right? Where
All
two or
right
more,
now.
yeah, where two or more are gathered. When we connect to that realm together in support of each other. And I can just imagine, although I haven't done your specific training, I've done lots of your training, and I know the power of being in an environment where I'm supported and encouraged to be my best self.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we need.
Yes.
A
And
hundred.
giving yourself permission to really open up and permission to really speak up. And some of the speakers that we got in this uh, panel of people is encouraging people to speak up and speak their truth and having permission to do so. And when you do that in an environment of togetherness, the sum of the parts create a greater whole. The
Yeah.
whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Things come together. You take little bits from this person or that person, and before you know it, you're envisioning new possibilities. You're inspired. You're walking on air,
Yeah.
and that's where we want to create people is feeling powerful and walking on their own air.
Yeah. And so the intention here is for Black men to embrace the idea that anything is possible. And Ray, I think you really nailed it. We have to have compassion because yes, there are realities out there with the system.
And you can't ignore it.
You can't ignore it, but it's not what happens to you that matters, it's how you respond to what happens to you that really matters. So what
Amen.
we're trying to do is give you some tools that can support and empower you because stuff happens and stuff is going to continue to happen. But when you have that support system, when you have the tool that I think Ray will provide you within this particular program, it helps you deal with the stuff that you're going to be up against because you're going to be up against a lot of stuff. But that's okay. That's okay.
We're always gonna have circumstances.
Yes. So, boy, time flies when you have fun. But Ray, I want you, if you can you give us a Cliff Note version of your 8 proven step system? Can you kind of walk us through some of those steps real quick before we go? I want to make sure we sneak those in.
Yes, let me first of all say something that you said earlier, is that we need well-being, our well-being. So this whole thing is grounded in well-being and connecting with your authentic self, being in environments of inclusion where you have a sense of belonging because that gives you a sense of power. And in addition to that, having a sense of community, participating in such a way that your little bit counts, your contribution counts. Those are all very, very important to set the context and the soil for this. And taking some time to be mindful, taking some time to maybe even do a few meditations and mindful practices so you can open yourself and access your greater self. Uh, and I say there are 4 P's: purpose, principles, practices, and persistence.
Ah, there you go.
So you start with purpose and you get clear about that, and the principles around what it takes to be a visionary. What are some of the operating principles about being a visionary? And what are some of the practices? And then the 8 steps I'm talking about are about the practices you need to put in place that are aligned with your purpose and vision. And then you need to persist, do what you said you would do, and have accountability partners and people that support you so that you can follow through and make it all happen. But when you talk about some of the 8 principles or 8 steps that I want people to do, I don't want to give them all away right now, but it's got to start with envisioning, as you say, imagining, envisioning, and getting clear about what you're up to, and get as specific and clear and as positive as you can about that. And then once you got that, that's not the end of the story, that's the beginning of the story. Then starting to identify the kinds of principles or pillars or things that are important to make that vision happen. Because visions don't just happen just by having a vision or just wanting a vision. What are the concrete, doable things categorically that you got to do? So you got to identify the main categories of what's got to be in place in order for that vision to happen. And it might take a little time to sit and talk to some people in the workshops that we do about what are your main categories, what are the main pillars, so to speak, that have got to happen. Just like having a building, if you're building a building, the big structure has got to have pillars that hold the whole thing up. And what are the main pillars of your vision? You got to identify those, and we work with people out identifying those. And once that you get that far, then we start breaking it down into other doable steps and how to sequentialize things and how to put things into a plan and how to put it into a calendar and a game plan so that you actually can walk it through. But so we break it all down. It's almost like taking a big building and deconstructing it all the way down to the ground and reconstructing it. So take your vision and break it down and then put it all together and put it in such a way that you can actually walk it through and execute it. So start with the vision and purpose, the more subjective things, and then do the objective follow-throughs.
So here's what I know with absolute certainty. Life was meant to be good, but nobody said it would be easy. And we live in a instant gratification society where everybody wants it right now. Just, you hear everybody talking about, quick fixes, everybody just wants it right now. I don't believe that's how the universe works. There's process, there's principles that we have to follow. And one of the principles that I love is what's called the breakdown breakthrough principle. And so for every breakthrough, there's a breakdown period. And that breakdown period is actually preparation for the breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
So as you're going on this journey, know that there's going to be plenty of breakdown. Plenty of breakdown, but understand that the breakdown is to your benefit. I'm living proof of it. So when you're in breakdown and you're, man, I'm so sick of this, I can't get through, I feel like a failure. That's why you have to have that support network to support you when you get stuck, because it's not easy. Everybody, again, success ain't easy. Okay?
It's not easy. And, everybody's heard all the buzzwords and all of the cute coin phrases of motivational phrases of how to get to your dream. But it's more than cute phrases. It's more than buzzwords. Buzzwords and figuring out the philosophies are meaningless unless you get to the boots on the ground place. And one of the things you said is that you're going to have breakdowns. Breakdowns are opportunities for breakthroughs. But how does that happen is the question. In a breakdown, you could whine, you could complain, you could be despondent, you could wallow in your sadness or self-pity, or you could use the breakdown to check in with yourself and to see what you're truly committed to. So if you wallow and whine and complain, that means that you're committed to whining and complaining. And whining and complaining might be more important to you than what your original commitment was. So in a breakdown, you get to recommit to your original commitment. rather than committing to whining and breakdown. And it's a choice point. In the midst of that dramatic situation, you get to really look at it and choose left or right. Am I going to complain and whine, or am I going to get recommitted to what I said I was committed to? And there's a power, just listen to this distinction. There's a power in being committed, but there's a greater power in being committed to your commitment. And having people shift into that gear takes guidance, takes calling you out sometimes, takes having peer support, takes having cheerleaders, take having faith, and takes peer support. But making that shift to being not just committed, but committed to your commitment is what takes you over the edge.
Absolutely. Now, I define commitment as an internal promise that I make to myself that I won't quit. It's an internal promise that I make to myself that I will not quit. That's Michael Taylor's definition of commitment. Now, with that being said, Ray, I want you to kind of give us some logistics of your program. Is it online? Is it live? Or tell us a little bit about the Launch Your Dream program.
This version of it is an online version because of the pandemic and so many people not being able to travel. And it also gives us an opportunity to reach people not only in different cities, but throughout the nation and maybe even throughout the world. That's the magic of online work these days. Now, I love doing in-person work. I think we all love that tangible, be there, feel it with each other, and watch all the nuances and help each other through the nuances. Eventually, we will be able to do the in-person work as soon as possible, but we don't let that stop us from doing some online work, some virtual work. So we do a virtual seminars. We can do 8 hours. We can do 24-hour events. Those people who want to go in a lot more detail and integrate things a little bit more as we go. But we don't always do the 24-hour events spread over several days. The one that we are going to be doing more often is the virtual event, which is an 8-hour event. Now, people come and they're not on Zoom 8 hours continuously. They have breaks in between. We have experiences for them to do. We break people into groups, so they have breakout groups. We have large group sharing. So it's part lecture, part experience, part sharing. And that mix allows people to accelerate faster. So we integrate accelerated learning technologies so that people can learn it faster and they can be with it with other people and take advantage of that. So it's a virtual event.
And how can people find out about it?
They can find out about it by going to rayblanchard.com. We're launching a new website shortly. By the time that people hear this talk that you and I are doing right now, we'll have a new website up, rayblanchard.com. People can also check me out on some of the places I go on, Facebook and Instagram. Facebook is Ray Blanchard Training Systems. Okay, and the Instagram is at Dr. Ray Blanch.
And
at
if you look below this video in Ray's profile, you'll actually see the links. There'll be links right below in Ray's profile that you can click right on, find him online. So Ray, as we wind down here, I want you to speak directly to the brothers out there who are saying, well, it sounds good, but I don't know, man. I don't know about this dream stuff, you know. But if they're watching this video, right, they have to have some interest. So I want you to speak directly to that guy, because if he's here, he's interested, right? So what I want you to do is your final closing thoughts on, number one, the fact that as a man who happens to be Black, if you're listening to this right now, you have everything you need already inside of you to launch your dream and create an extraordinary life. I'm certain of that. Okay, so speak to that. But talk about that voice that they're hearing that's trying to talk them out of participating.
Well, not only do you have everything it takes, you got more than what it takes. You just haven't experienced all of the support systems that you need, but you've got everything that it takes. So we want to be with you about you feeling, seeing it, witnessing it for yourself, inside yourself, and having the courage to take a chance and to take a step, to step outside of your comfort zone and step into a learning zone. And having people right there in that learning zone with you. You can't do everything by yourself. We've grown up thinking that we need to be a man. And being a man means doing it all by yourself and not needing help and not needing support, not needing assistance. Well, the new man is about stepping outside of that long range and thinking that you can do it all by yourself. Because if you get all of these tools and skills and ways to do it, and you don't shift something in yourself, you just become the same person repeating the same things over and over in a more competent way, but getting to the same place that you started with. So I know a lot of our brothers and sisters that had the experience of doing something over and over again and getting to the same place and not getting any further. Well, it's time to get past saying you want to get somewhere. It's time to get past saying that someday, and someday maybe today, and let it be today, because that's a measure of how bad you really want it. And you got a lot of support and a lot of people to help you. And look at the world through somebody else's eyes for a while and then come back to yourself. So use these extra eyes and ears to help you get past the way you always do things and get into a learning zone. We all got to learn. Absolutely. If we don't learn, we're not growing.
Yeah.
If you're not growing, you're dying.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Ray, you mentioned a special gift that you want to give away. Tell us again, what was that, the little thing that you want to give away?
I'm going to give people the branding questionnaire.
Yeah. Okay.
So that people can get started ahead of time, thinking about their vision, what they're good at. I want people to start asking themselves the question, you know, what is the purpose of your gift, a dream, or idea that you want? What's the purpose of it? Is it for you only? Or what problem or pain are you solving in the world by it? I want you to start thinking about that. I want you to start thinking about, what are you the only one of? There are a lot of people out there doing a lot of things, but what are you the only of? What's your flair? What's your technique? What's your way of being? I want you to start thinking about all these things in yourself. And I want people to come to it with some prep work already under their belt so that they can start off with a running head start. And what are you solving for people? And how are you going to solve something for them and and think about your audience. Think about the people you're serving. It's not only about you. And I think all too often we want our successes and we want to succeed, and it's all about us. But the way you'll succeed is not having it be about you, but having it be about the people you serve. And if you could satisfy something in them, their success becomes your success. So I want people to already start thinking about some things like that.
Gotcha. So if you're ready, actually, I'm sure you've heard the saying, you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. So if you're ready to shift, if you're ready to do something a little differently, know that Ray comes highly recommended. I've seen this man in action. I know where his heart is. He's a commitment to your transformation and empowerment. So if you've never done any of these types of trainings before, Ray's the perfect person to start with. He is just absolutely a gift to your transformation. So if you're ready, I'm going to have, again, his information below. Just click on it, follow him on social media, and contact him. Let him know you're ready.
And I'd like to just say that this is for anyone. This is for entrepreneurs. This is for MLM salespeople. This is for people who are just starting out. This is for people who've already got businesses going. This is for people who have something to say and have not figured out how they want to say it. So this is for any and everyone, and anyone can do it. We're not going to be over your head, too far over your head. Anyone can do it, but don't let yourself be satisfied with where you are, and don't let yourself be talk yourself out of taking another step. Take another step and see where it can lead you.
Absolutely. All right, my man. Well, Ray, on to you, my man. I am so glad to be connected with you. And as mentioned, everything happens for a reason. We've come full circle. We're a partner in this process called transformation. I'm truly grateful to have you as in my life. And I just feel honored to have had this opportunity to listen to you and learn from you and share your wisdom with others. So with that being said, I want to go ahead.
It is mutual.
Yeah. So I want to leave you with this thought. And I'm a huge fan of a guy named Deepak Chopra, if you don't know who he is. And Deepak Chopra said, inherent in every intention and desire are the mechanics for its fulfillment. In other words, you can't even have the idea without the capacity to create it. So Ray's program can support you in bringing that idea to reality. Are you willing to take the steps to make that dream come true? I hope you'll say yes to that dream.
Yes.
So,
if I could say one thing, this might be something to just remember, that as some philosophers say, the man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones.
Absolutely.
And he who is not satisfied with little things is satisfied with nothing.
Gotcha. Words of wisdom there.
Take the little steps.
Absolutely.
That's how you get to the top of the mountain.
Take the little steps. All right. So your takeaway from this session is you have everything you need to launch your dream already inside of you. It is your responsibility to find out what your dream is and take consistent action to make your dream come true. And if you're not sure what to do, just contact Ray. let him guide you to next steps. And again, his program is called Launch Your Dreams. Look below us here, you'll have links, and launch your dream, make them come true. So be sure to drop your comments below and let me know what you got out of this session. If you have any questions, drop them in the comment section. I will be answering every single question in the chat room. So don't be afraid to put your questions there because you will get answers. So this concludes session number 11. Now get prepared for session number 12, which I'll be closing out the summit, and I'm going to be sharing why The future is brighter than you think. You don't want to miss it. I'll see you next session. Take care.